Okay, so we're just going to ask our facilitators now from each of the workshops just to spend a couple of minutes just telling us 3 highlights of things that they've pulled from their workshops. Everybody hasn't had the opportunity to attend all 3. They have been recorded, so you'll be able to see the one you missed at a later date. But we're just going to do some reflections now, and then we're going to open the floor for questions. So please have those questions ready and we'll come round to you, and then we can ask the panel.
I think key themes came out of both our workshops. They were the same key themes, which I think is quite positive, really. There was a real recognition that everyone's responsibility, really, to address and respond to neglect. And there wasn't a question about that at all. Everybody felt that it was their responsibility. The other thing that came out was communication. Communication, they felt, was the biggest barrier to identifying and responding to neglect. And what there was a real want for was like a toolkit that we can all use, that we could include in all information, that we got a glossary of, so everybody was really, really clear on what that toolkit was for, how we would use that toolkit, and what the different roles are that would use that toolkit. So those were our main findings from the workshop. Hello.
So the workshop that Donna and I done was around group supervision, and we asked the audience to consider 2 questions around opportunities that group supervision could bring and what we anticipated would be the challenges. So we talked, in terms of the advantages and the benefits of group supervision, we talked about the obvious, bringing core agencies together that sit around the child and their family, sharing of information, effective communication, so all of the things that you might expect. And then some of the barriers and challenges, so we thought about availability, capacity of practitioners, workload, ensuring that all of the right people are around the table, and being prepared coming into a group supervision. So we talked a lot about that multidisciplinary working and the advantages, and also weaving in about what we see in practice today.
Right, so we had lots of really good feedback from our 2 workshops. So one of the main points that we took away was that the early help space is really interested in the Aware app that we've developed, and how that would inform better practice at that very early help stage. So that's something that we need to take back and look at, what we can almost embed into our police app to look at that early intervention. So that was a really important point that came back. So schools and education, so that's really important. So we feel that there's a lot of wealth of information around young people and those early signs of neglect, and that if education could have access to this app and understand the Aware principles, and maybe look to deliver some education and training to young people in our educational settings, particularly in primary school settings, to understand what young people should be entitled to, those basic needs, those nurturing needs, and then maybe have a greater voice in what's not taking place at home. So it's about understanding what's at home in that home environment and knowing where something isn't quite right. So it's definitely important, I think, that our colleagues in education have access to this app so they can look at those Aware principles. Yeah, the biggest thing to take away, I suppose, is that we've developed an app which is very much owned by West Midlands Police. It's owned on a police system, but everybody that we've delivered the app to, we've talked around the Aware principles, really feel that this would be beneficial from a multi-agency perspective. So whether or not from a region we can look at how we can incorporate the app so that everybody's got access to it, so that everybody's working towards the same principles, so that that early response to safeguarding is embedded across the whole of the partnership for a more consistent approach. And then I suppose if there's anything that we can build on and partnerships can add to that app, it just provides a greater voice and a greater scope to make that a better app for safeguarding children.
We're now going to move on to the Q&A session. So is there anybody that has a question? We haven't picked many up from the tables, but is there anybody for any of our panel members or facilitators that would like to ask a question to?
We had a question around graded care profile on the antenatal. So there is a pilot going on with antenatal graded care profile A, I think it's called. It's led by Public Health, so we are waiting the evaluation of that and then looking at what the outcomes of that is, what the learning is, and how we upscale that. So that's something that we will be taking forward as part of our action plan going forward, and then considering how we roll that out. There was a question around graded care profile and the use by universal kind of provision, whether that's schools, health visitors, etc. And actually the time it could take to complete that. Now, graded care profile is a tool being used best in multi-agency settings. So it's about how you work with colleagues in organisations or within your own organisations or cross organisations around taking the time and kind of working with the family on completing it and understanding what neglect looks like for each of the children. The training goes into that, so what we will be focusing on kind of going forward is rolling out the training for as many practitioners as possible and getting more and more people in that are graded care profile champions, so we can kind of upscale our training quite fast. We have today, and I'm kind of looking at Vanessa to give us a little wave, we have appointed a new neglect practice lead within the Safeguarding Partnership. It's a fixed term position, and really it comes from the recognition that actually as a multi-agency we needed some focused time and effort in terms of working across the partnership about embedding good practice around neglect, including the graded care profile. So hopefully you will be starting August time, and we've already got a whole list of things that we would like Vanessa to develop. So she will be coming out to your organisations, talk with you as practitioners, and I'm sure you're going to set up a network in terms of practitioner network to kind of get that ongoing dialogue. Any other questions? No? Then we're going to go into, so one of the things we wanted you to think about is the pledges. So what actions are you going to take? I think one of the reflections from today is that people who attended today are quite good at identifying neglect within your current practice. But remember what the children told us about, you know, it's not just about awareness and identifying. It's about you know, how can we see and hear the children within the identification of neglects and their needs, and then more importantly, what action are we going to take as a result? So what would we like you to think about in the evaluation is what actions will you take away from today, from, you know, the workshops, from what you've heard, from people you've met and spoken to, new information you've had. How are you going to start using that tomorrow? We're Wednesday tomorrow, so midweek, great time to start kind of sharing the knowledge that you've kind of gained today and get over the hump of the week. But we also making some pledges in terms of the Safeguarding Partnership and kind of taking forward some of your views. There was a slide in here which says about what we're going to take forward, but it's kind of got missed, yeah. So I'll do, on the table there's a QR code again for you to start putting in your pledges, and then what we'll do is we'll send you an email reminding you of your pledge, but we'll also then have what your pledge is. The QR code will also say what do we need to take forward, so it's an opportunity again to tell us what actions we should be taking. So we are going to revise our action plan from the reflections we've had today, but from the ongoing dialogue. We've got the reflection, the neglect practice lead, which obviously when Vanessa comes into place in August, we'll be driving that forward. But we won't just kind of wait till you are in place, we're starting to develop those actions. So we've got the time to talk sessions set up throughout May and June, and they will be focusing on neglect. So we will be reflecting from today in terms of what else needs to go into those time to talk sessions. So hopefully there's a leaflet in your pack. Book yourself on, get in contact with your partnership officer, and then see whether yourself or somebody in your organisation need to attend. We'll also looking at developing toolkits and resources, and we'll do some more training around graded care profile. So those are the actions we are so far have logged and will be taking forward as part today. And obviously, when you log on to your pledges, there'll be an opportunity to tell us what else we need to think about. So I'll give you 5 minutes to complete that before I hand over to Sally for some final closure remarks.
To all the people involved in facilitating and in speaking, and also to the safeguarding unit for setting up this event. This is the first face-to-face event we've had in donkey's ages, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be part of it and to listen to the conversations and engagement of you all as I've been around the room in the lunch queue or in the ladies or in the, wherever I've been, just listening to the quality of some of the conversations we've been having has been brilliant. So a special thank you then to everyone for organising this event and helping us to take forward our thinking. What we mustn't forget in our desire to do stuff, because I think we're a room full of doers by nature, but the first part of this conference was about enhancing our understanding of the seriousness of the effect of neglect on children. It was a very timely reminder for us of how absolutely miserable some children's lives are, day in, day out, year in, year out, and of our responsibilities collectively to work together to ensure that we understand that and that we collectively try our absolute best to do something about it and improve the quality of life for some of those children. And I reflect back on my 2 girls in my junior school thinking, if something had happened differently for them, would their outcome have been different? And we've all got knowledge and understanding like that, but I think we must hang on to that understanding that this is really serious stuff for many children. And the reflections on the serious case review from Bridget and Norfolk were really helpful in focusing our thinking on that and helping us remember the very serious nature of the work that everybody in the room is doing. So we've had some really good engagement. I think the workshops that I sat in on were brilliant. I really enjoyed what was being said, but I think some key messages that we can bring out of that. We've got a lot to do. What's come through on a number of workshops and tables and comments is the issue about communication. And the importance of including all perspectives in the knowledge and understanding of what's happening with children and in their families and their lives. We didn't talk very much about the early years sector, and I think that's something we need to give consideration to, how we include our interaction there and development there, because we all know that neglect is pre-birth and all the rest of it, as well as early years, and I think we just need to think about how we do that. And the importance of listening to everyone's perspective, and I was particularly struck by the level of depth and knowledge that everyone refers to that schools have. And we need to make sure that we're capturing all of that in all of our different processes. We've also developed and understood, as far as I can see today, some really exciting things and some new tools. The Aware app is amazing, isn't it? Those of you who are in that workshop, I'm sure will be excited about that. Those of you who weren't, you really need to find out about it. It's brilliant. The JAGS and the multi-agency supervision, again, another tool for our toolbox. The neglect pilot that's rolling out now will be rolling till the end of October. There are a lot of exciting developments going on here in Walsall that will help us all as we take forward the agenda on neglect. So it's been a really positive day from that point of view. The other thing I've noticed is a genuine thirst for more training and more knowledge. Walsall is an interesting place in that, and I work in lots of places across the country, but one feature of Walsall is it's an organisation, it's a culture here that says, I am prepared to learn and listen and I want to be better. And that comes through from individuals, but it also comes through from agencies and from the partnership, and that's a real positive. So watch out for training, knowledge, development, all those other opportunities that will be coming out, because your thirst for that has come across loud and clear today. So we've had, the other issue about that is how much everyone's enjoyed being in a room together and being able to have conversations. I think that message is loud and clear as well. So ideally we'll be doing quite a lot more of this over the coming months, so we can start to develop these conversations. And it's been really good for me because I've met people I've been working with for the last 18 months and I've never seen them in the flesh till today, so that's an absolute plus. So there's been lots of messages that have come to us as a partnership, things that we have got to do. We've got the points that Isabel was making, but there will be more things that trickle through our brains as the days go on and we reflect on the day. So I think today has been a massive success. I think you've all thrown yourselves at it and participated as well as possibly can be expected. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have and that you've learned things and you've got things to take away with you that will help you in your work. So thank you all for your participation today. I hope you've enjoyed it. A big thank you for everyone for organising it and have a safe journey home. Thank you everyone.